Hello, everybody. Welcome to Endgame Sensei, when I give two idiots a position which they will mangle. The last couple weeks, they've really been stinking up the dojo. How do I know? My beard, it's been going white because of this. That's how bad it's got. But today, they will try to redeem themselves to show that you can't just buy the I Am title for 10 cents out of a Cracker Jack box. We will now progress. All right, everybody.
Didn't he once say that I'd played a good endgame sometime in the last 3 weeks? Wasn't there one day?
There was a couple of good ones. Yeah, last week wasn't bad.
I know.
10 cents from Cracker Jacks. Has it been that bad, Jesse? We're really turning you white.
Okay, here we go. So we're going to do a little poll here, and you guys will have 3 minutes to ponder. Sometimes we do 5 minutes. This time I'm going to just do 3 minutes. And we're going to start the poll. White is winning, better, or equal. It is White's move. And they don't know who is going to be White in the game. They'll have to give their kind of snap judgment on the decision, on their evaluation now. And then during the game, if you've watched this show 100 times before, it's always the same. They get 5 minutes plus 30 seconds, 30-second increment every move, to give them a taste of what modern chess looks like. I played a tournament last weekend, and I have not actually played that many. And let's just say I'm not used to playing this new format of 30 seconds ad forever. And I will say it's kind of a thing you got to train. It's kind of something you got to get used to, especially in the end game. It's kind of a Zen-like quality you got to adopt. Because back in the day, there would be a little flag and your clock could fall and there would be a heavy anxiety and there was no 30 seconds. It was a totally different environment. And so I'm just used to when there's little time left, my mind is already kind of freaking out. So I got to get into this 30-second increment Zen mode thing where you're not really going to lose on time. You can make bad decisions because you don't have that much time, but you're not actually going to lose on time. So it's a different kind of time pressure. Okay, so David or Kosi, any snap judgments on what do you think is happening here?
Yeah, I figured something out, but I don't know if I should tell the Cracker Box I am.
I thought we were on the same side.
No, we are on the same side. It's just there's only one thing I know about this position. If I tell you it, then you'll know more about the position than me by definition. You probably figured it out anyway, but
it's fine. It's fine.
I think White's better, Jesse.
You think he's
I'll
better?
say that.
Okay.
I think White's better. It's their move.
One of the things, that overlords like myself like to do to keep the plebs in control is I like to split them. I like them to fight against each other so they don't come at me, So that's kind of good if you're already fighting against the other Cracker Jack. I am.
Fine, I can tell Kostya the line I calculated.
No. There's no lines. There's no lines. You don't get to say any lines. Put that back in your mouth. Kostya, what do you think is going on in this position?
I'm not sure about the objective evaluation, but I think in practice, White has really good winning chances.
Okay.
That would be my take.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what the chat is saying. We got, at the moment, we're about to end this thing. Chat's saying 72% think this thing is winning. That's a strong... Winning. Yeah, not just better. We only got 20% better, 7% equal. So, there we go.
It could be winning, but I would have to calculate harder to to really have an opinion on that. I'm not working the hardest just yet.
Well, you're about to work hard, buddy, so just get ready. All right.
Life is suffering. Life is suffering.
Life is suffering. That's right. Okay. First thing I need to get you guys is I want to make sure you're in the live chess.
Yeah.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to force them to play a game here. It's a beautiful. I got a special power from chess.com. Only gnomes of the highest degree have this. I don't know how I got this power. Don't tell them I have it. But here we go. We are about to start this battle. Mr. Pruse's name is sometimes hard to spell, but I usually figure it out. And then here we go. Bam. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's go. Now they're going to turn off their mics and mute themselves so they don't hear me. Mute me so they don't hear me say all the terrible things. All right. One thing I don't tell them is who it was. Now this is an old-time GM playing white named Chom, Hungarian GM from back in the day. I played him as an old man. We drew our little game. And great endgame player. This is a great ending. And white's got a very nice move. Kostya's really been having some trouble with the endgames recently. And David has indeed. He's played the last couple ones well. But don't tell him I said that. I don't want to give him any, false comfort. One thing, I do think it's close to winning. I have some ideas in the position. I have not looked at it with an engine. I looked at it with a student. And so I, went through some of the variations. This comes, by the way, from the new book I'm really loving, Van Perlo's Endgame Tactics. It's a huge tome. And one nice thing, actually, about Rook B7 is I don't think, there might be a problem with Rook B7. But it's okay, so let me just say, Rook B7 was not played in the game. I'm not sure it ruins anything, though. I'm not sure it ruins anything. We'll talk about the game move later. Okay, so King E6. Now, what I was going to say about Rook B7 is if you assume that King E6 or King F6 is the best move, then you always have Rook B6 at your disposal if you don't want to do anything fancy. Now, what would fancy be? Either Rook H7 or H6. The simple problem that white's going to have, though, is that Rook A2 coming around will be a problem. Now, I like this a lot. Let's repeat. And it's always a good thing to do. Back in the day, we would say repeat as a psychological function. Why it's so effective as a psychological function, I've often wondered, but I can tell you it is very effective. It just shows your opponent that you're in control. But of course now there's a new element because you're getting 30 seconds a move, which is not insignificant. Okay, so now Kostya has to find a move. Oh, and I gotta fix this. I blow this every time, you guys. So I gotta write in my little text here, I gotta say, Kostya is white. I get so happy looking at the position that I often don't take care of business, Cry. You often don't take care of business. And the names are switched. Oh, yeah, how did that happen? And I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you why they're switched. It's because, wait, Cry. Can you explain that? Is there really a good reason? Why are the names switched? I can fix that. You know what? I can fix that. Watch this. I'm going to do some real magic here. Voop. Voop. Uh-oh, now I lost David, though. Where'd he go? Where did the guy go? Where did he go? I lost him, my friends. He is gone. He disappeared into the darkness. What? Is that him? Let's bring him back. There he is. I almost lost you, David. That could have been hard to find you. My friend. I don't want to lose you, buddy. You're a good kid. You didn't do anything wrong. Kostya, on the other hand, he's been stinking up the dojo in the endgames. And then I don't know what that's going on there. See, now, they call me a boomer GM because I often just don't know the tech skills. All right, here we go. They're doing things. And do I approve of this? Do I approve of this? Good question. Let's say some obvious stuff. a pawn for black. It's hard to make that thing work. But the good news for black is that really it's, first of all, the e-pawn that will hurt us. And it's not simple to see how white is going to advance that e-pawn. So king f5, we're expecting now rook f2, king e5, and then probably a5, or even rook h2. So I'm concerned that Kostia's blown it. Yeah, so I'm thinking, actually, let me go back. I was talking about all kinds of other stuff there. I lost David's clock, though. Where did it go, buddy? How come it's not showing itself? Oh, man. Oh. All right, I'm going to grab that thing. I'm going to do another one here. So this is going to kill the whole dojo. You know, I make fun of them. They make fun of me when it comes to the clock, like stuff like this with the clock. Cry. How hard can it be to grab a little clock for Mr. Doc? You know? How hard can it be, buddy? Oh, man. All right, so there we go. There's a little clock. Let's bring it on down. Voop. All right, let's make it a little bigger. All right, now let's get back into it. So, big moment for David, and he should definitely take a second. So, in general, the danger is going to be the king finding some way to shepherd the e-pawn down. So, candidate moves. a5, rook h2. In general, let's see. Uh-oh. Oh, crap. I've got real problems.
Same clock captured.
Oh, God. I got more problems than that, too, my friends. I got more. I hate this. Why is chess so hard? It's not chess. It's not chess. Oh, I don't know. It wasn't my fault either. It was DM Hoki's fault. I captured. Yeah, it was DM Hoki's fault. He's our web guy. He screws up everything, man. He screws up everything. I don't know why I persist. All right, here we go. This has got to be the correct one. Okay. Now, I got other problems. The whole Boomer GM, he's really blowing it, I'll tell you. He's blowing it pretty good over here.
Flip the clocks.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Now you guys are just breaking my interface, dude. You guys are breaking it. I'm just trusting you, too. I'm not even... I'm not even able. All right, let's see if that's correct. All right. Looks okay. All right, looks okay. Rook f2, king e5, a5, rook h7. Now again, there was rook h2 was the other interesting option. But certainly what David's intention here is like king g8, and if rook a7, then rook h2. And losing the h-pawn isn't necessarily the end of the world. What white can hope for is to get the a good version of the Lucena and black not achieving the Philidor. And what I mean by that, you might say to yourself, well, Cry, there's an a-pawn on the board. Well, The A pawn is often a kind of useless dude, as I said at the beginning. Furthermore, and this comes into the game as well, there's an incredible problem where the king, well, let me put it this way. This side of the board is what we call the long side of the board, right? And this is the short side. Why do we call it that? Because the e-pawn is the thing that's going to break the board in two. And the reason that's significant is the long side of the board is where we'd say there's checking distance for the defending rook. So if you imagine the rook is on the A file, or let's say they're both pawns are, the H pawn is gone, and then the rook comes on the A file, starts checking us. It makes it very difficult. Why do I mention that? Because the A pawn has the potential to get in the way of the black rook, and that's actually kind of key to the entire ending. And we'll see that in both. If these guys don't figure it out, we'll see it in the game itself. Okay, I'm going to write these guys a fancy note. Switch. And first for the dojo, for myself anyway, someone tweeted a picture of me explaining a position, and they're in a gym. Now, we don't know if it's the Michael Irvin, but it's Michael Irvin, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll put that in the chat, just because that's kind of a cool thing. A lot of people came up to me at the last tournament, saying, "Oh, beautiful, man, dojo. Thank you for doing it." And it was, it's really like, I'm just generally in my own little world here. I don't go out. I just live here at the dojo, So when people come out and say things like that, it's very encouraging. Now, David's really pondering whether it's King G8 or King F8. King G8, let's just say, is the obvious intuitive move, because we're tapping the rook. The problem with King G8 is that you are further away from the blockade of the e-pawn. And the main reason the e-pawn is the dangerous one is just because the white king is closer to it, i.e. can shepherd it. In general, of course, the h-pawn is harder to promote too, but the main reason is because the white king can help him promote. We got a question. How does white not lose time with rook a5, rook takes h5? So I think what we're talking about is imagining king g8, rook a7, rook h2. And the thing I'm saying about the a-pawn is forget about the a-pawn for a second, because we don't need to take it. We can play moves like king d6 and e5. And you can see here what David proves, a very highfalutin move to play king f8 and not king g8. Because now we're saying the king is closer to the blockade of this pawn. So if we imagine a variation, it could have been king g8, rook over, and then forget rook a5 and play a move like king d6. And we're marching. And David presumably concluded that that was no bueno for him. And that if rook a7, rook h2 is essentially the same position. And if h6, we're going to play rook h2, presumably. However, that's not clear to me what is happening. So h6 is a big question for me. In fact, I don't know if I see an answer after h6. Kostya's pondering here. Oh, God, did it blow it again? What happened here? Oh, you guys. Okay. What happened there? It all ended. That wasn't my fault. Yep. All right, you guys. it was my fault. Okay. Okay, that was my fault. We're gonna fix it. I promise. Okay. So there are these animals. Look at, they're still playing. And yeah, get rid of the zoom garbage. Get over here. Not that one. This one. We fixed that very quickly. How about that? Now, there has to be a little jadoob. We got to do a little bit of jadoob over here with the proofs. Yo, proofs. How come it's all, it's not working for me there either. I know why. See, I'm going to have to do that thing again. I have to do that thing. Just put it here this time, Jesse. I lost it again. Do you see that? I lost it. Where did it go? No one knows. Wait, there it is. There it is. Damn. Shh. Voop. Man. The technical skills on this young Padawan, my friends. Well, you know what? If DM Hokie has trouble fixing that, it was his fault to begin with, right? It's his fault to begin with. Okay, so here we go. Rook b2. I think. Okay, so let's talk. Now every move is critical in these positions, but what Rook b6 is going to do is do two things. First, create Philidor-like 6th-rank defenses, and second, make white think about Rook a6. It's going to be a question of how fast he is in this variation. I actually had a variation very similar to this in my training position with my student. This looks bad. All right, so we're anticipating Rook b6. And then I think on Rook b6, we can play things like King d5 or King d7. We're not interested in holding the pawn. We're interested in this being a distraction so that this bad boy goes up the board. So they've stunk up the dojo a little bit. Mistakes made on both sides. We'll talk about it. Obviously, Cry's, streaming technique, not the best either, So I'm also stinking up the dojo. So I think King f5 might win. Oh, he does it immediately. And I think that's a little bit with the wrong. It doesn't feel right to me. Like, just let him win the pawn. If he wants to go win that pawn, let him win the pawn and shove it. Take this pawn and shove it. Is that winning? I think so, but it's true. It would have to be. I think that is winning. And by the way, that is another example of the pawn, the a pawn getting in the way of the rook coming over. And the rook on the a file is where we'd want it to be anyway. I might want to double check my truth score. My truth score on that a little later. So the basic question, though, I'm sure that getting asked is, what about our friend? This might be fine, King f5. But what about Rook h6? Rook f6 first, too. Fine. What is the point? If you go e file, I go Rook h6. You go g file, I go Rook e6. And it's going to be a little bit hard to mess with. However, maybe King g5, Rook e6, Rook a7. Maybe there's still a little drama left there. Looks like a little drama. Hi, Putsy. Oh, we're doing okay. I had some technical malfunctions, but I don't let it get to me anymore. I'm so old, I don't let it get to me anymore. We're anticipating King g5. What are we going to do? Rook e6? I don't know. Rook a7? We go back or somewhere. then king f5 back. Looks grim. I'm not sure, but was there another move? This is before he played rook f6. I guess rook h6, king g5 is the same thing anyway. So king g5 did happen, rook e6 happened, and now we're anticipating rook a7 check to the miserable king. I get the malfunctions. Yeah, I do get the malfunctions. All right, yeah, let's try to break this down. Rook a7, king g8, king f5, rook h6. Also, rook a7. Maybe we go. If we go back to f8, then h6 might hurt us. That could be really annoying. Because h6, rook e4, h7, and it's not clear that we are getting out of dodge. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay, so rook a7 is actually a big question for the black king. What? King f4? Okay, don't stink it up too bad here, Kostya. You got at least play rook a7. It's a big question for Mr. Proofs. He's got to at least answer it. Come on. Merle says king rook a7, king f8, h6 looks good. It does. So if we imagine rook a7, king g8, Kostya repeated. It was fine. All right, here it comes. King g8. Proofs is on it. Now, Kostya has a basic problem. It looks like he's going to have to give up one of those pawns. How can he give up a pawn, the h-pawn really, to advance the e-pawn's career? So we can imagine king f5, rook h6, e5, rook h5, king e6. And that position is definitely still hot for black. Again, because the pawn is advancing, it's like a Lucena position, and the a-pawn is as much of a liability as it is a strength, because it means that the checking distance won't be had for black. I think that position, though, it's tricky, because it's like one of the nice things about this is I have in my mind, like, let's call it the base position with the king and e-pawn advancing up the board. But there's this difference with the a-pawn, right? And it changes a lot. Now, he could also play king e5, rook h6. That doesn't make any sense. King g5, he'll go back, sack the h-pawn. Whoa, Kostya. Okay, he's got an idea. What? I'm talking so much smack about Kostya, and then look at that. He's saying to himself, buddy, I'm going to win that thing. He's saying. Okay? Now, the white king is poor enough that it's not too simple. I have to admit, I wasn't even thinking of that for Kostya. Kostya's got that materialistic millennial mindset, you know? He's got that materialistic millennial mindset, and I don't know if it's helping him here. Now, generally we would say this should be winning. King d4, king f7, and this one, I think, requires still a little bit of work. I'm not 100%. I don't think it's going to be easy. Kostya has to stop his hand from playing king e5. My hair would go completely white if he did it like that to me now. Yeah, we're now in tricky territory. So we're going to say some very basic things. you do something like rook f5, king e6. How do you knock the black king off of the blockade? Now, famous endgame is, of course, f and h pawns. And that is a known draw. But this has similarities to it. And of course, the difference is that the pawns are split further, meaning we can split the king and the rook more than we can in the f and h ending. But I still think there's going to be some interesting technical problems for Kostya here. For example, if we park a rook on h4, we will have to give the h-pawn. And I'm beginning to think rook f5 is not it. Like, put the rook back on a5 and play for stuff like h6. Now, the good news is Kostya can really work him here. Yeah, but at least if David just sits, there's king e3 doesn't do anything. You can always go back. Okay, so this could go for a while. This could go for a while, my friends, which is fine. We've had short. I want to run it back, though. I wanted David to have a chance to do it. I have a feeling David could win this thing as white convincingly. And then I got to show how it ended too, how the actual game went. This is a problem for psychologically for black because A, I think you understand that you're toast, but B, you know that you have good practical chances, and you just have to be able to sit in some kind of way. So, for example, okay, fine. Is this fine? I'm sure it's fine. King f4. Oh, he's going full check road. Oh, maybe this is clever, David. Very nice, maybe. Oh, this could be really annoying. Nice, David. So I think king e3, it didn't feel right, and David grabbed the opportunity. So the problem is king g5, rook g1, and then you need to go back. Now maybe and if you go king g3, rook g1, maybe king f2, rook h1, maybe you can hope to start over. You can start over in that position and play things like rook a5 finally. And after you get rook a5, you can play for h6. Like I said, though, this one isn't easy. Okay, so now rook g1. I think I don't like king h6, Kostya. I don't. Well, king h6. Oh, God. Oh, stinking up the dojo. Oh. Ugh. All right, now, all right, before I yell at him too much, he's got one attempt here, which would be rook g4. That happens. Now rook g5 here, and then playing for king g7. How close are we there? I think it's going to be right on the, if it works for Kostya, it's going to be right tempo for tempo. Proust has got loads of time. I mean, rook g5 is the only idea, right? Rook g5, boom, boom, boom. And I'll tell you, there's a position a theoretical position where the rook hangs out on f6 to block either check, and the king is here and the pawn advances. That is the one I know, and here we go. This is all happening, and I don't think that Kostya is in time. So rook a4. You guys, rook a4, h6, or just rook a7? Rook g6, I think king f5. King f5 is important. Rook f6, king g5. Yeah. Wait a sec, maybe he does have an idea here. So we could go rook a4. I don't know. No, I don't understand. If he had two moves, then he's winning. But this one, I'm not sure. Rook a4, king f7, king h7, then we could start getting in. That's also known position. I like the way David's taking his time. Because I think, well, okay, actually, maybe I was thinking he was checking rook a4, but the other thing he could say to himself, which I think is correct, is rook f4 might also be fine. Rook f4 gives me more of the heebie-jeebies, though, with the idea of checking here. It makes me a lot more nervous, so I don't like it. Because we would be worried about rook f4, h6, rook f7, king g8, and then I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about that. We got someone claiming this is winning. Oh, maybe. But after rook a4, not so easy. Hosebud says it's a draw. Oh, we got a real... If we had time, I'd do a poll. To me, after rook a4, white's going to need, let's say, something special after rook a4. I don't see it yet. But whatever it is, it's going to be special after rook a4. If this thing is winning. If you had two tempi, I definitely think it's winning. But without el tempi, I don't see it. 74, just subscribe. That's the thing we need. We need some subscribe. We need a little subscribe here. Quick poll. 12 months, 74. That's a year. That's a year, buddy. That's a year. That's pretty good. Okay, we got an idea from Jaliptic. Rook a4. Oh, he does go at rook f4. So maybe Jaliptic's idea is what scared David. Rook a4, h6, check to the miserable king, king g6. Maybe. Maybe. This is all theoretical stuff, of course, and Kostya believed in himself anyways when he went for it. I didn't think this was necessary, Kostya, but you did it, buddy. And maybe this one I did not see how black at least easily drew this thing. Because if you do not check on f7 immediately, then h7 and you check, and then king h6. And I don't understand how you live through that. For example, king e7, h7, check to the miserable king, king h6, rook f8, for example, rook g8. And if rook f7 and king g8, we can go, what are you going to do? What are you going to do after that? If king f6, we go rook g7 there. So for example, rook, rook, king, rook. Ouch. Maybe Mr. Bruce is toast. Maybe he is toast. Hostbud also has a line, yeah. So we're anticipating king g8, and we think it's now gone. Holy moly, Kosia's going to win an endgame? How did this happen? Yeah, I think it's done, man. All right, David's not done for. Now, so h7, there's no king f6 because of h8 queen. And then, yeah, we're done for. We're done for. Okay, maybe we'll get to run this back. Yep. If king f6, h8, we would have ourselves a queen versus rook endgame. How about that? I think the rook on a7 would drop off pretty quick in that position, though, because we got queen e5 check at the end of it all. And then there'll be some, yeah, I think it's not hard actually to find a check to e3. Yeah, king f6, h8 again. Unfortunately, a queen with check. King f6. Maybe Kostia will move the rook to g1. That would give me some white hairs, huh? h8 queen. Yeah. Now my intuition was that the rook is gonna go after queen e5. You know, like queen d6 and then queen c5. Done. There it is. Okay. Great. I finally resigned. Beautiful. All right. I think we should run it back. I want to run it back. All right. Are you guys ready to run it back?
Sure. Whatever you think, Sensei.
That's the attitude I like. All right. Kosi, you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, I just did a very bad thing. I'm glad I didn't hit the call there. Okay, hold on. Okay. I got to give you a chance, Mr. Proust, to show your winning method that you were talking about. I was like, oh, what does he see? This will be really
Kostia showed an even
interesting.
better method than what I thought of.
Oh, no. Kostia was thinking up the dojo. You just didn't deliver, buddy. Didn't deliver on the goods. Didn't
That's
deliver on the
encouraging.
goods. Here we go. Boom. All right, we'll see what these guys do.
Sounds this thing.
All right, I'm going to turn on the light. Oh, now I got to switch one thing, actually. Oh, I'm probably going to have to do all kinds of drama just to fix the clocks and all that stuff. Clocks are going to be all wrong. And then once I touch the clocks, it's not going to allow me to move them properly. You know, let's just make sure what we got here. Yeah, I got to fix the clocks. Now don't lose clock. There we go. Good. That was so weird that I lost Anyways, that's an old tech story that no one's interested in, huh? Okay, no one found the right first move. Oh my God, I hate it when people text me and stuff. All right. Now, like I said before, this is not what White did in the game. I like what White did in the game better. Yeah, but maybe White can make this work. Stress on maybe. So, I'm hoping that when I show this game, that the principles will become clear. Oh, I'm getting attacked. Getting attacked. No, I didn't play e5. We'll show. On the first move, he played a4. All right, h6. Interesting. Now, the issue with that move is that that pawn is unprotected. So, rook a2 would be the first question mark for us. And then check to the miserable king until we start talking to that h-pawn. Now, I was distracted at the beginning of the last game, but I believe what happened was, right, White took on h7, and it was interesting. I did think it was drawn, but it was interesting. Now, the beginning position, as far as I can tell, probably is drawn by Black with best play. But it is not simple for Mr. Dimple, if I'm allowed to say it that way. Not simple for Mr. Dimple. So, yeah. This might be simple for Mr. Dimple, though. And this one might be simple. White has an obvious problem. If we take that pawn, it's not just a pawn, but we will get the 6th rank, which will be nice for the blockade of that e-pawn. Now, was rook a2 also drawing? My gut said yes. Now he's worried about some rook g7 stuff, and that's why he did it this way, which maybe is fair. And the sad news for White is if you have to play something sad like rook b6, then a5 and the black king will come out next move. And if king g4, rook e5, that kind of business, that ticky-tacky. So this one looks hard to imagine how White's going to make progress here. We're assuming a5 now. Yeah. I found, so I went over this endgame. I didn't look at it with the computer, but there's a lot of endgames like this where it's really interesting, especially if you realize there's like, let's call them base positions. I did a video called the 5-minute Rook Endgame test well over a year ago. And there I have a couple positions which you could say are the bedrock of this position. Like we can get several of those positions or positions very like it from here. And you can imagine we could have had white winning the A-pawn instead of black winning the A-pawn. We could have had, and then now obviously the other way. So, black can end up with either an A-pawn or an H-pawn, depending on how the thing goes. And the big question every time is the E-pawn gonna do the smackdown or not? All right, so David needs something special right now. And at least I don't immediately see it. I do not immediately see it. If we imagine like E5, then King F7, and then what do we do? What do we do after that? I don't know. King G4, Rook E5. What do we do after that? I don't know. Now, people are talking about E5, I think both in this position and in the beginning position. In this position, I just don't understand what we're doing after King F7. But maybe it's the only thing to do. For example, E5, King F7, King E4, aiming for King D5. True, it's a thought. Though if we say E5, King F7, King E4, we got to think about, say, Rook H2, something like that. Maybe even A4. All right, Rook F6 is a very highfalutin move. That's a highfalutin move, my friends. That is a very highfalutin move. Oh, that is a very fancy move, David. Now, the good news is obviously that the black king can't get out. But also from Rook F6, the king, we're not going to be able to, check the king from the side, which is ultimately what we would want. This puts a lot of pressure on Kostya. I like Rook F6 from a practical perspective. It's definitely the move that's going to make you sweat. So if we imagine now Rook H2, King F5, Rook A2, maybe King E6 or E5 there. The problem in general of pushing the E-pawn, we'll see this in the game too. It's very masterful what white does. In general, a good rule of thumb is in the Rook endgame and the king and pawn ending, you do not push your pawn until the shepherd, i.e. the king, is in front of the thing. All right, there we go. So it happened very quickly. It went A4, and now E5 is pushed. And now David is banking that Rook H2 is going to save his soul. Now, obviously, we got to say if the pawn gets to E7, it's really horrendous because then Rook F8 is a threat. So you can never allow the pawn to get to E7. Which is a little bit, why A4 surprises me here. In this position, he played A4. Why wouldn't you play Rook H2? I don't comprende that. So now we're here. And if Rook H2, we are anticipating E5. Now, maybe it's doubtful, but no, there might be some way on E6 to play Rook F2. There might even be a Rook F2 now. Oh, God, that's going to make my brain spin. That's going to make my brain spin. Rook F2. If King E4, snip, snap, and then that's a famous ending, which, what? Isn't that a draw? That's going to make my head spin. I think that's a draw, my friends. That's really going to make my head spin, though. Kostya famously said that he never wanted to see a pawn endgame, and I think he's assuming well, actually, excuse me. I mean, Kostya's the one who's black, but David is probably not thinking of this as a draw, but I think it is, dude. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a draw. Now, you do not have to take the thing if he goes to g5. You just say rook g2, check to the miserable king. Maybe David still, this h6 is a really unique feature, though, because maybe David can say, screw it, I'll just go rook g2, king h4, and then I can always play e6. And once I get e6, buddy, you better watch it you better keep it on guard with rook e2. Oh, this is a really spicy one that David's cooked up. Now, we're going to say rook f6 is definitely losing. King f6, toast. Yeah. Rook g2, king f5. I was thinking, too, though, that rook g2, king h4, and once we get e6 in, it's pretty rough. But I think you're right, the king f5 is also good. This rook f6 was a very interesting idea. And I think when we go back here, could dude have played rook h2 here? That was my big question. Because a4 loses a whole tempo to this business. Rook e2, king f5. Beautiful, David. Jeez, man, take it easy. I think the first game was the first time David lost. You could tell he was depressed, man. He was like, sure, Jesse, we'll run it back, man. If you say so, Sensei. If you say so, Sensei, we'll do it, man. This is toast, man. Not only is the pawn going to e7 a mate threat, but if he gets his king to e7, it's a mate threat. Oh, yeah. Rook f6, man. Yeah, a4 was not understanding the danger. And that was, you could see it on the time. I can tell you guys, he spent 2 minutes, David did, thinking about rook f6. So king e6, you just play, there's no rook a3 because king e7 is the end of the world. Rook f8 mate. Rook f8 mate. Now, Mitch of the dojo has claimed that he never, in fact, said that that the endgame starts when there's no more mate threats. He claims that wasn't him. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. All right, there it is, king d7. He doesn't have the checking distance. e6 is coming. Ooh, it's evil. Once e6, e7 arrives, my friend. Mm-hmm. And on rook a3, there was still king e7. Okay. So I'm not seeing a way for him to stop e7. Once we get the pawn to e6, we're ready to move the rook back too. Crispy critters. All right, so again, e6 is what I'm seeing, and then if rook a6, king b7, rook d6, I almost did e7, that would have been a blunder. Rook d7, don't do that, buddy. Just play like king c7, and then, watch, that's a nice variation. Boom, 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 pop. Crispy critters, And if you take my rook, I got the queen. Lots of arrows, sorry. Let's take that off there. I don't see any reason not to play e6. e6 looks totally winning to me. And it's Zugzwang, too. You didn't need it to be Zugzwang, but e6 is definitely like, Black would Black's lost no matter what, but it would be nice for black to just pass there. Unfortunately, he cannot. After this is done, by the way, we're going to do a dojo talks where we're going to talk about this FIDE Grand Prix and all its nastiness that's going on right now. No one understands. No one understands why Ding isn't playing. No one understands the rules, but we're going to try to break it down. We're going to complain. I'm going to complain. And, and then we'll take it from there. All right, David, play e6. Buddy, it's okay. You can do it. This is actually fine for him to think. I am okay with him thinking about this position. Yeah, the visa thing, very hard to understand. I think I understand it, but I also think that if he really wanted to play, he would have found a way to play. You know? You know what I'm saying? This trip, he had it, he knew it was going to happen for months. Months and months and months. Me and David played in China once. I had to get visas. That was a story. Maybe I'll tell that story when we come back for the talks. I'll save that for there. He doesn't want to wait till 2024. That guy's getting older too. I like Bruce's control, man. He's really like I'm not rushing it. Put that black king in a box. All right, I'll be right back. Is it over yet? No. David, buddy, you got to fix that rating too, man. That's thinking up the dojo, 23-25. Fix that. Oh, thankfully, though, the stream can't see that rating. I cut it off. It was too gross. Got to cut off all the stink from the dojo. Yeah, we're going to talk about the visa thing. We're going to talk about a visa thing, but I really think it would have been possible. I mean, the guy's like a national treasure. You're like, hey, Xi Jinping, can I talk to you for a second, buddy? My boy needs a visa. Somebody could have done it, Somebody could have done it. The consulate talks to the consulate. Something is made to happen. Give me a break. All right, there it is. Will ghost you fight on. Sad news for Kosi is we're assuming on Rook A8, even Rook F8 at that point wins. Yeah. Let's see if David finishes it with Rook F8. Or does he get more fancy? I just play Rook F8, boss. Just play Rook F8. You don't need to be so fancy, man. King B7 is what I also thought, but this is fine. This is fine. Rook F8, Garen. That's as gone as it's as gone as gone is. As gone as gone is. Is that grammatically correct? Yeah, I don't know if people have speculation about things. My sense is like, David's coughing. My sense is that after that bicycle accident, I had a bad bicycle accident myself. Something about the guy's confidence dipped. I mean, obviously, he was still playing super chess and everything like that, but before the bike accident, it was like, oh, he's going to challenge Magnus. Then after the bike accident, things weren't so easy. And then the candidates tournament happened, David's just taking his time. He should, too. When you got this 30 seconds, just double check. Just double check, man. Just double check. At this point, though, when you played King B5, I mean, he could still play King C6 and go back the other way. So if he does have a choice. But do it before you run out of time, boss. Okay. Do it before you run out of time. All right, there it is. All right, Kostya can resign. Come on, buddy. They're pre-moving now. Look at that. 0.1. Bang. This is the end game from Searching for Bobby Fischer. Except that White's got a couple extra tempi here. Okay, there it is. All right.
GG's.
GG, yeah.
Good games.
Yeah, I thought we thought Rook F6 was clever, man. Rook F6 was clever. Don't really understand why Kostya played A4 after that, but Rook F6 was clever. I think
it's to gain space with his A pawn. Otherwise, I'm going to play A4.
Okay, I'm just gonna say Rook H. He goes and wins your A pawn, and then there's that variation, right?
Rook H2.
Yeah. But let's do this, guys. We don't have that much time before we start the talks. Let me show you the game itself. And I think, and then that might be the best way to understand the position. First, so I'll just show you maybe some of the beginning. This is Chom. I don't know if you guys remember, this is an old-time Hungarian GM from back in the day. Anyways.
You want to invite us to your board?
Oh, I always do this, you guys. I always do this. So, boom. We're going to invite some people to the board. Boop. Yeah, so this is just, I'm going to show how we got here. It's just kind of entertaining. All right. Boom. H4. Boom. Now, Rook H5 is definitely an interesting variation. Always repeat. You guys repeat a little bit too. And now, okay, so here's the thing. You guys both played Rook B7. I'm not sure that throws it away. I think it does. But the truth is, even after White's move, I believe Black can draw. So White played A4.
That was my original idea.
Well, why didn't you do it, buddy? You were talking smack. You're like, I got this idea.
Because Kostya beat me really badly with Rook check. So I copied Kostya.
So taking the H pawn, this isn't winning endgame?
Well, so I got this from Van Perlo, and Van Perlo was like, maybe Black should have taken the H pawn. And I looked at it, and my first intuition was like, no, you can't take the H pawn. But all right, here's the variation I came up with. Again, I have not looked at this with a computer or anything. So I believe, all right, this is very intense, so let me just try to get it right. So I believe we give a check, and I can go E5 or E3. Let's just go E3 for a second. Check. And now over Grover. And let's imagine here, and the pawn's running. The pawn's running. I had some trouble figuring this out. I also tried to go to e5, and maybe that's better because there's no rook a5, right? So pop.
Wait, check him. Like Kostya kept checking me
You know, check on h4.
on a7.
It's
Either
those
push the
moves are
black king
always
away
good.
from defending the e-pawn or onto the back rank.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like a vicious thing Kostya did to me so many times.
Well, they go here. It's still a mess.
I think white just moves the king up the board with the e-pawn, and
Well, black's going to go too, though, right?
okay, king to e6. e5. Rook to the 8th rank. Okay, rook h8.
Okay, but this is one of the things we saw. This is a drawn endgame because I got the checking distance on the A file.
Yeah, that's true. Wow.
Now, we could spend a lot of time on that. I spent some time. I wasn't able to make it work, and I was surprised because it was just by a tempo. But let's look at what happened. Because I think, by the way, the thing, I think one of the tricks, let me just say this. I said this at the beginning of the show when you guys started, and I kind of need to show the game to show the trick. So, e-pawn. Just imagine all the other pawns off the board, just the e-pawn for a second. Then we talk about long side, short side. Both kings want to be on the short side because when you're on the long side, you can get whacked by checks, which means that the a-pawn might not be black's friend. Okay, so let's check it out. a4, snip. Check the miserable king. Boom. Boom. Always repeat.
Getting 2 rook pawns.
And what's the deal? There's no rook a1. There's no rook a1. The poor guy. So he's got to go this. That's not enough. Always repeat. So here, then we got here rook d2. That's it. And what is the bummer, man? Look at this. He plays rook
Threatening like
e1.
rook g2 here.
Well, check it out. This is the real. Look at this. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? This e7.
Rook d8.
We gotta wait. We gotta be a little careful about it. Rook d8. Boom.
Yeah.
And also, if you had played king g7 at some point, it's also unfortunate. Well, here it's just e7. But there was a variation I had here with. Yeah. Anyways, done. And it's because of the a-pawn. The a-pawn's not a friend. Not a friend. So then this is just rook d7 over. Now, the question, I guess, is did rook b7, and now you guys did 2 different things. One of you guys played king e6 and the other played king g8. And I'm not, maybe this is fine, rook b7. But the first question was, I think, let's just try king g8 for a second. And then what, h6 is what David played. And then rook h5. But what about that?
I would have played e5 here.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried about the same endgame we were kind of talking about with the a-pawn.
Okay.
Like, I can barely hold it when it's like a theoretical draw. So with the a-pawn, I'm like, oh no.
Okay, I don't get it though. Let's say I go here.
e6.
Snippos.
Check.
Uh-oh, I blew it. Okay.
That's what I calculated. Was that variation to justify pushing the h-pawn up.
This one's still
Or just
really...
king e5 was also fine, right?
This one's also really spicy.
And now I would have taken on h7, and I hadn't calculated a lot further than that.
Rook f7 check.
Yeah. Throw in rook f7 check. Okay. Now h7.
h7, just bringing the rook.
a7.
Yeah.
Queens.
Well, queens is a good move. Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's try that again. That was interesting. So h6, rook a2, e5. Yeah, I'm still very suspicious. But we could get a position similar to the game if black checks around and the white king penetrates and we win the h-pawn, right? It would be similar to the game that we just looked at.
Yeah, if you don't go for the pawn right away but give some checks and the white king goes to e7.
e6.
The thing is, the h6 pawn is of some significant value to white if you don't find time to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we go back to this position, and it's open question. Where should the king go? And David played king e6, I believe. Mm-hmm. Right? Which honestly...
And I played it on the last second of my minute. Like, I didn't know which...
Uh-huh. King
Yeah,
G8.
I would have done this one too. I just wanted to try something different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you didn't want me to just repeat all your moves.
Well, I just didn't even know what I would do differently.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes a difference, but if I just do that, and then this happened, but the king was on e6, right?
Right.
Now, my take on this was this is a draw. Mm-hmm. But it was surprisingly, somehow things got bungled. I don't know how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would go here again.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was very tricky. I didn't think it was winning the whole time or anything. I just thought it was really hard to hold.
So here.
Right. So now, like, king f5.
Check the miserable king.
Yeah, e5.
And now...
The a pawn's in our way, like, in a bad way. But when white takes it, then white's got the a file, so that doesn't, like, help tons either. Okay. Swing your rook, Kostya.
Yeah.
So in this, if I go rook h2, what's going to happen? You were going to do rook f6 or something like that.
Maybe rook a7.
Yeah, rook a7.
And then wherever you go, the king advances, threatening back rank mate, so you can't even take the h pawn.
So when I do this...
Yeah, check. And yeah. King f6.
Yeah, so a position like this, I thought would be winning, right? Because of
King g6. There's another one for Van Perlo.
Oh, that's another one for Van Perlo. Good move. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this one's interesting too, man.
Yeah.
Okay. This is fascinating. So it's one of the cool things about Rook B7 is maybe there's something. It feels like A4 feels so right, and so it feels like there's something wrong with Rook B7. And
When
maybe
we were
there
sitting
is.
here, thinking about it for a couple minutes, I was like, A4, I'm a genius. The rook takes the A pawn and it's too close to check us, and we advance. And then Kostya played Rook B7, and like I never had a chance, and I was like, fine, I'll play Rook B7.
yeah, A4. By the way, David, I was very fair because by repeating, I gave you more time to think about where to put your king.
I saw. I was like, is he adding time to his clock or just giving me a second chance because he saw I used my whole minute?
Well, I mean, I also just figured, if you do spend all your time, that's fine too.
Right. If I use another minute on it a second time on the same choice.
Right.
Huh. What? This is so weird.
Oh, this was hell to play with black and a lot of fun to play with white, I thought.
Yeah, with black, it was very tough.
Okay, dumb question. What is going to happen like that?
Check to the miserable king. Rook to the A file.
You gonna Vampirlo me again?
That's the plan. There's just this was what I was wrestling with on the defensive, right? Because I had this position, and like I just couldn't like take the E or H pawns. And in most scenarios, even if I'd been able to take the H pawn, I felt like I would still lose to the white king on E7, pawn on E6, and my rook's like on H5.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing. At least for right now, my little mind is seeing that A4, Rook H5, I can't find a win. And then Rook B7, I can't find a draw so far. But I still distrust it. I distrust it a lot. Let's try King. I don't want to play King G8. But okay, that kind of King G8 really does necessitate H6, right?
Okay, and I went. And then I built that nice little prison cell. I mean, it was really snug in there. It was like perfect because there's like 2 squares of space, so you never have stalemate tricks.
No stalemate. Yeah, and you also
It's
have
like you're
two threats,
mated,
'cause
but
you
you're
have-
not stalemated. It's like everyone's dream.
Yeah. No, but also it's like you have the E6, E7 plan, or you can bring your king to E7, and my rook needs to be in position.
Yeah, you need to stop the king and the pawn from going to E7. It's like beyond wicked. And even if I don't mate you, I can trade the rooks and it still wins. So
You
it's like,
trade whenever, yeah.
Okay, David, so you played Rook H5, right?
yeah,
And then I believe Rook B6 happened.
yeah.
And then I believe
So-
A5 happened.
I mean, if you think king F7 and rook A6 is any kind of chance, but
And then I believe
You're rook F6, I think.
yeah.
Rook F6.
I prioritized piece activity, Jesse.
Oh, good, man. No, Rook F6 was really interesting. All right,
I guess
so
rook H2 would have been the other option here.
well, Rook H2. Okay, so here we
A4.
go. A4.
Yeah.
Now there's more space, right? Which means the black A pawn is slower, it's less counterplay, and
Okay, I got a dumb question. So we can go either now Rook F2 or Rook A2.
Well, let's say rook A2. I'm just curious.
Okay, yeah, Rook A2.
E5.
King F5, right?
Rook B4.
Well, I was also thinking of king E3, but okay, maybe not this.
Right. We were looking at something like this in the stream, and I was for sure I was like Rook H2, Rook A2. Now, am I certain it's drawing? I don't know, but it looked good. I know because A4 just felt like a loss of a tempo.
I mean, it seems like rook A6, white should still be.
Rook A6,
feels
yeah.
very similar to the game itself. Yeah.
Right. This is like what would have happened if you hadn't gone after my H6 pawn at the very beginning, right? If you just went straight for the A pawn.
Yeah, pretty much.
I would get this position. My goal is to put either the pawn or the king on E6 and to threaten the mates from there. Yeah, this is good, Kostya. Very good.
I don't know. So if I start with this one,
E6.
and then I play like King F8.
Okay, check twice.
Twice, okay. I don't know where to go. Let's put it there.
Yeah, and then take H7. Does Rook H8 and H7 win because the king can't get to B7 and A7?
Maybe. Let's try it.
What did Van Perlo say?
That looks rough, man. I don't know. Oh, shit, man. Look at that. Okay, Jesus, this is hard, man. I mean, tell me if I'm missing something, because I don't know what to do besides Rook H4.
Yeah.
I don't know either. I didn't have like a good idea for black in either of the two games. I saw multiple ways for white to beat me when I was black.
Dude, you've been crushing this endgame stuff, man. So, Rook B7. Big choice. I guess I don't see. And this thing, I guess I was surprised by how effective that was here. And if I go here, you're playing Rook B6, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, you might also just throw in Rook G6 check.
Okay.
Might be
You know,
useful.
like nothing bad about Rook G6 check.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a good thing because you get me away from the H6 square.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so if I go here,
Okay. Now potentially white could think of just marching the E pawn right here. If you choose that way, instead of using the king and everything, just E5 maybe.
it's still hot. It's still hot. So check.
King G5.
E2.
King F6.
Check in Rook A7.
This will be. Is this gonna be close? E7, right?
Yeah.
So this is a draw though, right? Pop. Pop.
Wait. We don't need to take that one.
You don't have to.
Yeah. What if push?
But I do want to hold the pawn now. So
King to E8.
So let me just say there's a class of positions where tempo is everything and you need to have Rook A8 and E7 and you are close because my rook does not have checking distance. We're just saying the obvious. So now when I do, and I think, this is going to be really nasty. Well, it's like the 8 pawn is a burden. It really is. Let's just look at E7 for a second.
Right.
Oh, maybe you don't want rook. You don't want
King
E7
F7.
because of King F7, right? So, yeah, we're right on the edge here. Yeah, I don't know. Now, we got to say that you had other options too, but That was interesting.
What about Rook A8?
Right now. What I didn't understand about that was Rook B7 or King F6. It would be a similar thing, I guess.
So E7 here,
King F6.
Rook A6. Okay. And now Rook A5.
No, but okay.
King D7.
I get what you're doing. Okay, wait, did I blow this? Maybe I blew this. This is complicated, man. Okay. So it's funny, I was describing in the chat, or talking to chat, it's like this is a fundamental position without the A pawn, and you throw the A pawn in, and then it's like a whole madness.
I think there's one last defensive idea here for black is Rook H2.
That looks good. But our king is on the wrong side, so if I play, our rook is on the wrong side, so I'll go here. That doesn't look good.
Yeah, that's done. That works.
Right, so this was...
But it's cool that it's like you always have to take at the right moment, where it's like now it's winning. It's like,
Yeah, very tricky.
another time.
Okay, I want to just try... Oh, gosh, okay. So once E7 happens, I have to be ready with King G7, I think. Yeah. So King G7. I don't know. I didn't.
E7.
E7. And if I go A4, I think you can take the thing.
Yeah.
I didn't like King G7 then because I didn't want it.
I think Rook A8 is a very nice move. I might believe that that's the only winning move in that position.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Well, that was impressive, man. That was really interesting. And kind of like the same thing I was saying with the game is it's all about the weird throwing in like a standard position, but you're throwing in with the A pawn. And I think,
What if
dude,
white takes on A5? Is that still a draw?
well, here you're pushing your luck after King F6, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll say this Rook A8, when you look at this, this is not for this, for just saying that this Rook A8 is the key move without the A pawn as well, right?
Yeah.
Nice move. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting endgame.
Okay, you guys, let's take a quick break. We're going to do Dojo Talks, and yeah, I'll spend some time looking at this. Maybe I might say something in the YouTube description saying what I found, but that was great, man. You might have found, maybe that was an improvement on A4. I don't know. A4 looked like a good move to me. But I love the idea of H6, Rook H, F6. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So everybody, we'll catch you next time on the Endgame Sensei. Bye-bye.